What's going on, team? It's another wonderful day because it's a brodacious slice. Of course, my name is Jonathan. I got the famous Dr. J with me. What's going on, Dr. J?
Hey man, just chilling. Excited to be here today. It's the start of 2023,
Whoop,
crushing
whoop.
gold, doing big things, and man, I'm so excited to be on the journey. What say you, sir? It's great to see you.
Man, it's been fantastic. It's 2023. I have been crushing it. I've been doing almost a 5K every single day of the new year. I've missed just one day, no, 2 days because of monsoon rain. I'm a guru fitness, but I also have a bunch of flack in my chest already. So running in the rain for me is not an option. So if you hear me
Your
kind of,
vlogs are killing it, man. If you're out there
oh my
on the
gosh.
podcast, go check out our YouTube page. Chef has got his vlogs where he's like logged in and talked about it, and also talked about what's inspiring him that morning and all, and shared some honest stuff every now and then about, yeah, this wasn't great or whatever. Like, I'm totally in, man. I love your
It's
vlog.
been a great learning process. And the book we're going to talk about today, Never Finished by David Goggins, is a large part of that inspiration for me. I am not a runner. I am not I would like to, I could say I'm a physical specimen. I mean, I'm strong. I'm a big dude. I'm just built like an ox. And I've just kind of always been that way. I always marched the heavy instruments when I was in marching band. I was just that guy. I was the big, broad chested guy that marched the big instruments. But Never Finished by David Goggins is just an inspirational book. Quite often we hold these deep bricks in our mental psyche that just hold us down, and they just kind of drown us in that deep, cold, murky water of our thoughts. We hold on to these bricks for dear life. And no matter how much they weigh, we just continue just to keep putting these things in our pockets. And often, as we imagine this brick somehow is as if it's going to metamorph into this magical floating device to put our head up to surface. These different bricks that I'm talking about are obviously not physical bricks, they're mental bricks. And these mental bricks come from a variety of different things. What I appreciate about David Goggins' book is, I'm sure David Goggins, being a Navy SEAL and being on these JSOC groups, and I'm sure he has military PTSD, but that's not in large part what his book is talking about. His book is talking about the day-to-day mental PTSD that people have. And that PTSD comes from, according to Webster, PTSD, or post-traumatic disorder, is an order caused by a major life traumatic event. According to the Stay Safe Foundation, symptoms may include like re-experiencing events, whether voluntary or involuntary, such as dreams and intrusive thoughts; avoidance, meaning they isolate themselves from help or others around them; cognitive and mood swings; and arousal symptoms such as overstimulation and outbursts and angers. For a veteran, causes of PTSD may include just the fog of war, losing a comrade in action, having their Hummer destroyed by a roadside explosive device. And the list could be infinite for our veteran members who are out there and our listeners. But civilians or non-combat veterans can also have PTSD. And we often carry that personal trauma in our back of our minds. This can be bricks from our back of our minds that are drowning us from the inside out. PTSD may include a death of a loved one, witnessing death, domestic abuse, life situations, financial or social status, and many more. Of these mental roadblocks can be lingering in the back of our brain. Each one separates one from the other, and each can be individually packaged to release the weight. So how do we achieve that? How do we get, imagine us literally in the middle of the ocean. We fall off one of those big cruise ships that Dr. J likes going on to.
Yeah.
We want to hold on to all of these things. We want to hoard up all these bricks because we don't want to talk about them, right? We don't want to address them. We're in the middle of the ocean. We're in the Gulf of Mexico, and you have all these bricks in your pocket. They're in your coat pocket. They're strapped to your vest. And just imagine yourself sinking, and all you want to do is just take a fresh breath there. You just want to get your head above water and enjoy life for just a split second. So how do we achieve that? Insert my dude, David Goggins.
That
Now,
dude's a savage,
that
straight up
dude
savage.
is a savage, man.
David, if you're
Now,
listening to our podcast, because I know that you wake up every day and listen to a Brodacious Life, we think you're savage, man.
you've got to be. If you're living a brodacious life, if you're brodacious, you're also a savage. And David Goggins, he's got this amazing resume. He's achieved all of these different things. He's an ultra marathon runner and a cyclist. He completed courses that are hundreds of miles long. He's a retired Navy SEAL who served in the Afghan and Iraq War as an Air Force Tactical Air Control Party. He has achieved greatness through amazing hard work and challenges his mind and body to the extreme. David, however, did not start that way. I know Dr. J and I have discussed the book Can't Hurt Me. Dr. J, just quick, 30 seconds. What were your thoughts on Can't Hurt Me?
Can't Hurt Me was an amazing story. The thing about David Goggins is that, he didn't come from, just the greatest situation. In fact, he came from a way worse situation I think most of us can really and truthfully dream about. He's an African-American man. He grew up, experienced racism. His father abused him. He saw his father abuse his mother, like physical abuse, emotional abuse. I mean, and then, he went through that whole thing, and he wasn't the smartest kid. He wasn't the most physical kid. Basically, he had everything. He was textbook. Everything is against this kid. Everybody thought that he wouldn't make it. And then Can't Hurt Me is really a story. It's his personal walk of how he figured out that dude is savage, man. He is powerful. And that all those things that held him back are the things that make him freaking invincible. And his whole book, the whole premise of that book is about being invincible. But I would argue that book and the one that we're getting into, it's about a mindset of you can't hurt me because I'm stronger. My mind, it's these bricks as you're talking about them. There's these bricks at me that hold me down, but breaking through these bricks is how I identify, because I am a brick crusher. And his whole book is about overcoming obstacles. But of course, he's physically fit. Dude ran a 200-mile race. Like, let that sink in. But he talks about that the greatest part of that race was doing it with his mind. And I have to ask myself the question, how many bricks do I have that I carry that I keep talking about how heavy they are, but I don't realize that I need to get excited like a mofo that I dadgum got this brick, that no one else has this brick, and then crush through it and get that savage mindset to accomplish my goals, man.
I agree. And what I appreciate about this book, which again, it's a sequel to the book Can't Hurt Me, is that he's not speaking like a ringside coach who just yells at you from a distance. While they themselves, that coach, he's never stepped in the ring. Would you take advice from a boxing match from someone who has never been punched in the mouth? No, it wouldn't, man. This book comes from the heart and offers real help for those who are struggling to push beyond the average or what's acceptable, wallowing in self-pity and doubt, and becoming okay with mediocrity. This is about breaking through that. And this story is about him personally breaking through it. He's not yelling at you from some guy, some millionaire, billionaire spot. We've all heard that book or heard that millionaire of, I just, I did it. I had $1 million already, and I'm already sitting up here. No, this guy who is in the trenches, he looked, honestly, when you look at his pictures, he looked very similar to me and how I feel now. And then you see what he's doing in the moments now. This story just follows up on his personal story and through his personal greatness. Goggins, he had the opportunity to have many excuses in his mind when he was young. Like Dr. J said, he was in a bad neighborhood. He was racially discriminated. He suffered horrendous daily torture from his father. Yet each day now he's able to move forward and remove those bricks to achieve excellence. And I think you have to ask yourself while reading this book, what bricks am I allowing to hold on? What brick am I holding on to that's keeping me back every day? One of them,
I think that's
Yeah, no,
I
go.
was just gonna say too. No, I think it's really huge that people think about this stuff too, because we're at the beginning of this year, we're kicking it off, and us talking about this book is so strategic because you've been writing out your goals, you've been talking about where you want to go for this year, but part of getting to that new destination, that place you ain't ever been to, as David would say, is getting your mind in the right place and letting it go, is to figure out what to do and how to deal, and is to get that mindset right. I would argue that mindset, man, is just it's everything. It's all about the power
Yes.
of the mind and the power to not take excuses. I mean, that and this I took a lot out of that, about letting go of my excuses and going, it's time to be a full-blown savage. I'm gonna say that a lot, Chef. I love that part in his book. His whole thing is just like, it is time to be a full-blown savage.
Yeah, he goes from being called David to where he only wants to be Goggins. Goggins is his new
Goggins the
savage,
savage.
his alter ego. When he steps into the gym or he's going for a run or he's in training, he's no longer David. He's Goggins, and Goggins is ready to fight to the end. And I've really had that moment. I've been doing this 5K a day, and I have we're January 8th. I've hit it 6 days. So I've run 6 5Ks in the last 8 days.
Crushing
And
it.
I'm very proud of it. And I've not stepped on a scale. I don't give two craps about that scale. I don't want to look at it. I don't let my wife even put it in the bathroom. I don't want it around me because it's not about that. It's not about my weight. It's about me being my best. And I feel like I'm mentally my best. I feel physically my best. And honestly, I feel spiritually my best this week because I'm hitting that time and I'm using that time to grow spiritually as well.
You know what you're talking about too. Goggins, Savage Goggins, talks about in this book something that really resonated me. He talked about, like, I forget the word, but it was something along the lines of distraction syndrome. And he talked about the ambulance, that sometimes people, the EMTs get them, but EMTs that aren't ready, what'll happen is they'll get in and they'll see somebody's arm like totally shattered and behind their neck. And they're so distracted by that bent up limb, and they immediately jump to it because they see that. But what they haven't checked for everything, because they got so distracted, is that there's, the heart is failing, the heart is stopping, or there's brain damage. In other words, there's a more serious issue, but they never got to it because they got distracted by a distraction. And I think sometimes in our life, or in your case, you're talking about how with you, it's the scales, that is your distraction. But you figured out that looking at the scale is just a symptom, but your health, your ability, your goals of running and physical fitness, that's a more important thing. So for you this year, you're trying to get centered, let go of the distractions, and focus on the thing that will make you there regardless of all cost, I guess. So, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought about that because that is something I wrote down in my iPhone, and I look at that every day and I'm like, what's going on in my life that's holding me back? That is just a distraction. It's just talk. It's just noise. And how do I let go of the noise? Because haters gonna hate, but appreciators gonna appreciate. And I gotta appreciate myself and let go of them haters.
Well, it's true. I mean, I think so often we focus on maybe a symptom that we don't fix the illness. Overweight, I believe, is a symptom of my illness. My illness is that I'm not mentally strong when it came to my workout. I wasn't mentally focused on getting better and doing better every single day, focusing on my faith, focusing on my family. Again, keeping our 5 F's in mind. When I'm not focused on that, I'm addressing little small things around the perimeter, but I'm not fixing myself where it counts. And I think that's just so important that we stop focusing on the symptoms. Maybe the symptoms is, oh, well, my wife's just arguing with me, so I'm going to put away the laundry. No, the symptom, that might be a symptom of it, but the actual problem is probably something deeper within your marriage that you need to address. And fellas, we've all been there.
Mm-hmm.
I've been married now for, gosh, I'm supposed to know this off the top of my head, but 12 years. And come May, and every like 3 months, I'm in the doghouse. I'm not going to lie, but I have really focused this past year on making sure that my bride knows that she's special, that she's important, And I really think here in the last 2 months, 3 months, since we've really been deep diving into this podcast, I believe my marriage and my love with my wife has grown tenfold because there's a better focus on the day-to-day interaction and not just focusing on little symptoms around the edge, but I'm deep diving and focusing in right on my issues and the things that we need to address in our marriage.
Well, and I like the way you word that because, you kept saying I or we and the things that you're doing. In other words, you're accepting ownership. And what I love, Goggins tells a story. Savage Goggins tells a story in this book. He's running this 200-mile race. He's like 100 miles in. Dude is tired. And he's got a pacer, and that's like somebody in front of him that, you keep pace with. They don't run the whole race. Pacers kind of come in segments.
Yes.
And then you're running the race, you get behind a pacer and you follow them. That way you can take your mind off distractions and follow your pacer. But in his particular case, he's running. He's got his cell phone off like he's not supposed to because it's a long race and they want to be able to communicate. So he has no communication going. He's trusting this pacer. Well, the pacer takes a wrong turn, or excuse me, the pacer doesn't turn the course when they should. So this dude has run 100 miles. He follows his pacer and his pacer comes off course. And they're going up the mountains 10 miles, 10 miles off of course. And of course, the race folks have been tracking him and they're trying to call, they're trying to get in touch. They can't do it. And then, but eventually the pacer gets to a spot where he gets reception and the pacer's phone works and he figures it out. And there's like an oh crap moment. And Goggins, what impressed me, he talks about at this moment, which you just reminded, because you're literally doing this right now. I'm like, dude, this dude is going to kill. We're about to hear in this book how Goggins like totally puts a beat down on his pacer. Like, what Gordon the crap are you doing? You son of a, full blown, because he had to run 10 miles back to then run 100 more miles. And he was second in the race when he got there. And now he's like number 80 in this race. But he said, I had anger flash in my mind. And in 3 seconds, I put that crap down and realized that at the end of the day, my job is not this pacer's job. I have to accept personal responsibility for what I did. I choose who I follow in life. I choose my own path. I choose my own destiny. And he got all the way back down and still finished that 100-mile race. And he never once yelled at that pacer who felt bad enough. And I just tell that story. I hope everybody checks it out in the book. And I love what you're talking about with your marriage. And I would think that's why you've got such a great marriage and you guys are doing great things. It's because you're both accepting that responsibility and going, if it is to be, it has to start with me.
That's right. That's right. So I'm not going to, we're not going to deep dive into all the little intricacies. That's my $10 word.
Intricacies.
You need to do the work. You need to read the book. If you are a person who is offended by language, please note that this book is written by a Navy SEAL and he speaks like a Navy SEAL.
Yeah, it's X-rated. Not X-rated. There's not sexual stuff in it, but it is R-rated, the language.
Yeah. I've worked in kitchens, so that's kind of like a secondary language for me. People always talk about what do kitchen staffs look like, and I really do like that meme of like the front of houses are all these beautiful little perfect looking specimens, almost godlike looking creatures. They got their pressed shirts and buttoned down ties and they look so nice. All of my kitchen crews have looked like the Black Pearl team, from Johnny Depp's Pirates of the Caribbean. That's kind of always what my kitchen crews have looked like. But I think you need to do the work and you need to deep dive into yourself. And what I appreciate about this book and how they released it, if you do the Audible version, which you can click through on our resource tab, the resource tab will have there. You can download the Audible book if you have an Audible program. And what's great about that is between each chapter, you have David Goggins and then the reader, and they're breaking down every single chapter together. So it's like a secondary podcast that kind of goes along with it.
Yeah, the Audible version is way better than the book. And I'm a book reader. But like you said, the Audible book, they'll read a chapter, but then he'll do an interview and Goggins himself will come on and he'll talk about it. There's one section, if I can just point it out to, that's extremely powerful. I mean, he talks about the abuse that he went through, about the father, but there was a day that he got to confront his father. And it was so funny. He went there basically to beat his father's butt, but that's not what happened. He actually got there and felt some pity. And, but anyways, I say all that to say, there's a section in there where, you know, and you can't get it in the book, but basically his mom comes on, and he and his mom, right there for the listeners, they walk through what it's like. And he asks his mom tough questions like, why did you let yourself be a victim? Why were you a victim? Why did you let me go through this? And like, you can hear, like, this was clearly awkward even when they recorded it. But man, I appreciated it. And I thought, you know, if people could have those hard conversations with themselves and with their others, like we've been talking about, it's that brick we hold on to, but we realize that we can use that brick for power, that brick to become a savage.
Yeah.
And I think it's absolutely fantastic. I hope you guys check it out.
So with that, I wanted to give 4 quick things that I really enjoyed about the book. Again, I'm not going to give you the entire plot. I'm not going to give you all of his points that he makes in the book. The point is that you've got to do the work. I can't just preach it to you. It's David Goggins' book. You need to hear it from his mouth and through the reader, and you'll get to hear his voice at the end of each chapter. And I promise you, if you're really looking for change in your life, it is a great book to go through. So first one point that I wanted to make from the book is it's explore your greatness. David is constantly exploring what it means to be David. Dr. J can't explore what it means to be Chef. Chef cannot be what's great for Dr. J. Dr. J has to do what's great for Dr. J, and Dr. J needs to constantly re-explore what is great for Dr. J, and I need to be doing the same thing. And what was great for me today doesn't necessarily mean that that's the greatest I can ever achieve. I need to be constantly resetting those goals. What I appreciated about it is that he is constantly finding his next greatest best thing. So first it was making the special forces. He failed twice. On the third time, he managed to get in. And then after special forces and after his special career, you know, he had some other failures that were going along with that. Then he wanted to do more, and he wanted to do these great marathon runs, and he wanted to achieve that. And it talks about all of that because that was his next feat of greatness, was to run in honor of his fallen comrades. And first started with a 5K, then a 10K, then half, then a full marathon. Then he's doing ultra marathons, which are either 100 or 240 miles. Holy smokes, I'm huffing and puffing after 5. But amazing stuff. So I think that's one of those things that you've got to understand is it's a constant move forward. When I achieved my goal this year of reaching my 5K, as far as running an official 5K race where I finish in the allotted time, because I still got to shave about 35 minutes off my time to make a regulated time. That's something that I want to achieve this year. But that doesn't mean that that's going to be good for the back half of 2023 if I achieve it in March or April. That means that I've got to now go for a half marathon, or I've got to go to, maybe I want to focus on weightlifting. Maybe I want to focus on whatever it might be. I can't get just stuck in running 5K. I need my next big, hairy, audacious goals, as Dr. J likes to call it. So dream big and never look back. The next piece is, I think, what Dr. J walked into with talking about the emotional trauma from Goggins' childhood. I found it interesting that Goggins did not speak on his wartime days when we experienced his PTSD. They were all from his childhood. And these monsters that were in his demons, from his demons, are from his childhood. Remember, after each chapter is an episode where you get to break down these different things. Again, find it on abrodaciouslife.com/resources. But in that one chapter, though, he brought in his mom on that podcast. And it was just an amazing, heartfelt episode. Like, I was in tears. Like, the love of a son and his mother over their experience. Though they have their own differences, you can see their undying love between his mom and himself. And they really unpacked their experience separately. They both dealt with those bricks differently. But together, they broke down those times of beatings and overworking in their dad's business, constantly mental abuse and denial of their personal dignity. You know, they were treated as if they were dirt, scum of the universe, as if nothing in this world could save them, or even worse, is that no one cared. And then one night, things change. As Goggins and his mom, you know, they pack their bags, and they just put all their things. They literally took everything that they could possibly could. They put it in a garbage bag, like a straight up plastic garbage bag, and left. And remember, at this point in time, women didn't exactly have the rights that they do today. They might have had voting rights, but it was not the same. And especially for African-American women. I still know older African-American women that can't drive, who are taught they weren't allowed to drive. So it goes just beyond their abuse. She really went out there and did so much to protect her son. And I really appreciated that relationship that a mom had. And you could sense it in her heart and the way that she recounts the story of how much, not that she regretted it, but how much they loved each other, that this experience happened, this trauma happened, but that mom never gave up on her son. Never stopped believing that their son could be great.
Yeah, I think that's huge too. And and it segues into your point 3 that's coming up too. But we think about the trauma, and the truth of the matter is we've all been trauma. We've all had things that go on. But his mom, in that, when she talks about it, she talks about the point she decided that she wasn't going to let that guy have that power over her mind. It was time to take that ownership back. And we all have to unpack our trauma, but also realize that I think all of us, I remember what it was like to get a job, and someone that I looked up to, was like, you'll never be good enough. You're not ready for this. You aren't the one. You can't. Man, dude, it hurt me. In fact, it plagued me for like a year. And then finally, getting to your next point, I'm going to let you get into, we start deciding who's in our corner.
Yes.
And then I realized I got to let that crap go, because no one can define me. And I use it as fuel in my tank, that every day I get up and go to work, it's like, no, these people don't define me. I define me. And it won't be true unless I say it's true. And so it's time to move on past that and to get to that next thing. And if there's going to be garbage in my life, it's going to be garbage on my terms. Or as I teach my band students, I don't let things happen to me. I happen to things.
There you go. Well, that kind of, again, like Dr. J said, it kind of goes into our third point, is who's in our corner. Goggins has achieved a lot, but what I appreciate is that he gives respect to his corner. Mm-hmm. He has people who are with him constantly, who are there to push, push, prod, poke, make him better. He has people in his corner who are not going to accept mediocrity. And his wife, his trainers, doctors, they're all geared to pushing him to be more, to achieve his personal greatness. Too often we like to be in a corner that just love on us. I love my mom and my dad. My mom and dad will tell me that they love me, and I do a great job, even when I go out there and I do mediocrity. I love them to death. That's
love you, Mom. Shout out to Mom. If Mom's listening, love you, Mom.
I love you, Mom. But that's not always that's good and that's comforting. And sometimes our soul needs that. But also on the flip side of this coin is that we need somebody who's also going to poke and prod us and tell us that we can be better, that we are born for greatness every single day, not just when a special event arrives, but every single day we can be great, whether that's great in the church, whether that's great at work, great in your marriage, great as a dad, great in your workout life. All of those things coincide. Every day you should be achieving greatness, and you need those people around you. Again, for me, I have Dr. J here. Dr. J, I send him a text. He sends me a text every day. I know Dr. J is holding me accountable, and I'm going to hold him accountable for what's going on. And I'll say, is Dr. J is my witness. I send him a picture of my Apple Watch every day with my workout, so it's seen.
It's true. True story, man.
But also I have
personal responsibility.
Yeah.
No, I was just saying personal responsibility. I love that you talk about that, and people that you have in your corner. We talked about on episode, I think it's 66 or 68. We talk about reflecting. We did the time management sheet, then we reflected on that time harvesting sheet. And in there, we asked ourselves the question, who did you spend the most time with? And it's from this book right here, because Goggins talks about who is, we talk about who is in your corner, his pacers and everything, because whoever you surround yourself with is who you're going to be in 10 years. John Maxwell said it that way. So for a lot of our listeners right there, I know this is true for me and it sounds like it's true for you. My happiness, my savage mentality is determined by those that I'm around. So let me ask you, if you're listening and you really want to implement this thing here before we get to this next point, is what savages are you having in your life? Those go-getters, those bone crushers, those folks that say, I define me and you define you, and we're going there together, but I'm not leaving you behind. And also, if you don't get your crap together, I'm going to turn around and tell you, because I love you, because I want to race to this top of the mountain with you. And I can't get there unless we're pushing each other.
And I think that kind of coincides a little bit with the fourth point, that my fourth and final point was Goggins comes off as arrogant and super difficult. You know, people think he's this borderline insane person because of these natural, or not natural, but these unnatural feats of achievement. Though he speaks with confidence and he possesses just godlike confidence in everything he does and the way he walks and talks, but he contains so much humility. You know, it's not easy to write this book, and to write it in the way that he did and reach back in the dark times and have that moment where he talks about his emotional and physical abuse. He really put himself out there. And throughout this book, though he talks about his achievement, if you really listen in closely, he's proud of what he's done. But the whole book is also about giving credit to the people who pushed him. And I really enjoyed that he recognized that it was not just him doing all of this work. He had an amazing wife who's pushing him through it. He's got a doctor, if not 5, who are constantly putting with him. When they're going on these races, they have what's called pacers, like Dr. J talked about. That person is there to help Goggins keep pace with what's going on so he can meet his goal. And like he said, in that moment, Goggins could have been upset. In fact, they actually got back on course and began the next trek. And what happened is this whole next section is uphill, like crazy uphill. This race is like through the mountains. So imagine doing like 10, 15 miles, and you've already done 10 miles by accident. So you got to do 15 more, you know, and you're going like straight uphill. Well, he gets behind because his pacer can't keep up. His pacer was not used to doing that extra 10 miles. Goggins could have just left him in the dirt and then just said, screw this guy, I'm going on. He wouldn't. He would not leave his pacer. And he stayed with his pacer to the point where other people were catching him. People were mocking him. People were saying different things about him as they're passing him, but they don't know the real scenario of, well, I've already run 10 extra miles and my boy here is not doing the thing. Eventually, just a quick funny story. Eventually the pacer is just like, no, dude, for real. He's like, I want you to catch that guy. Cause the guy passed Goggins and made a snarky comment. And then the whole point of like this back end of this chapter was just like, he had a goal in his mind. He had a fire in his eye. I'm going to catch that son of a you-know-what, and I'm going to let him know who he messed with. And so for the next 30 miles, Goggins goes on this hunt to chase down. He doesn't really remember his face. He kind of just remembered his body language and kind of what he looked like as he passed by. And then at the moment they're getting in like the last 5-10 miles, Goggins catches him. And Goggins made a point to do a little shoulder tap and let him know who he messed with. And Goggins zoomed on past him. And there's just this moment of, you know, Goggins possesses all this humility, and he could have done so much. He could have chewed that guy out. He probably cost him several spots in the race, but he came back and was able to do greatness and finished in the top 5, if not top 2 or 3. So just kind of a cool thing there. And again, kind of going along with that last bit, I know I'm kind of getting long-winded here, is that when we talk about the humility, and especially the humility when it comes to our corner and what's in our corner, what have we been talking about? What's our key word for the year, Dr. J?
It's community, man. It's all about
community, baby. We're all in this together, and I'm just super excited. Dr. J here has a vlog. He's been super humble and he's not talked about it, but Dr. J's got a vlog too. We're 2 people who are here. We're in the grind with you on the every single day. I was pushing that 300-pound mark. I am not a runner. I am not a physical specimen, if you will. I'm a guy who's trying to make my life better. And I know Dr. J is here doing the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would tell you, go out there and check out our vlogs. You can find them on a Brodacious Life YouTube page. And we'd love for you to like and follow us there. But the big thing is in those vlogs, we try to share our successes and our failures, because to get to the mountain of success, it's not a linear path. I mean, you go up, you come down, you go up. But the key is that we want you to see, that we learn from Goggins and that we share with each other, is that every time somebody does a beat down, they better watch out, because when you beat me down, I get right back up. You beat me down, I'm like Rocky in that movie, man. I take a punch right square in the face, but I'm going to stand up and I'm going to keep going, because my life is worth it. My goals are worth it. And you and I are family people. My kids are watching me, bodaciously men out there. Your family's watching you. Your spouse is watching you. You know, your extended family's watching you. You got to man up. If you want to do something great, man up and do it great.
Amen. Well, with that said, make sure you hit the like, you hit the subscribe. You're watching, find us on YouTube, find us on Instagram. Of course, we're here on Apple and Spotify. We're super glad that you're here. You can also find us on our website, www.abrodaciouslife.com.
Subscribe to the newsletter, man. We send out free resources all the time. Costs nothing. I promise you will not get more than 1 or 2 emails a month. We don't do the junk mail thing. But, you know, there's been a lot of episodes come out where we're like, yeah, we're talking about this review, or we're doing these goals. This is the sheet that we use. Like, it's all about community. It's all about us going into it. This is 100% crowdsourced show. We're stronger when we work together.
Well, you guys have a brodacious or brodette week. We'll see you next time on A Brodacious Life.